She predicted what was coming in '08. She saw the behind-the-scenes plotting and planning. It is a deceitful and spooky world and high finance. And she is trying to warn people now what's really going on so you can prepare somewhat for what's coming or what possibly is coming.
Yeah, and what I wonder is, do you think that like a total economic collapse is a real concern?
Yeah, I don't know, but what I can tell you is that other episodes that have been smaller in terms of the buildup have ended really badly. And what's worse is that even though you could argue that a lot of United States-based banks have cleaned up their balance sheets over the past few years, the same cannot be said for other countries, and we're just as interconnected as we once were. So we're more vulnerable than we have been.
If Deutsche Bank went
For
under.
instance, if Deutsche Bank blew up like it threatened to do last year.
Right. I mean, that looks really bad.
Oh, well, again, that's why they don't use the word contagion lightly, because it reminds you of things like the plague.
But it is a financial plague.
Exactly.
And what did we find out? They had something like $72 trillion worth of derivatives. I mean, it's frightening.
I mean, Angela Merkel, the German chancellor, she can bail out Greece while she sleeps. That's easy enough. Deutsche Bank?
No way.
I'm sorry. That's a big ticket item.
And Deutsche Bank goes down, we all go down?
Well, again, interest rates have been lower for longer than they've ever been in the history of mankind, which means that assets, stocks, bonds, commercial real estate, high-end residential real estate,
are all high.
All of it is more overvalued than it's ever been outside of the stock market in 2000. But that does not help me sleep at night. But again, we've come through a period of central bankers monkeying with asset prices for longer than they ever have. That means that we're more vulnerable than we've ever been. And the longer these things draw themselves out, the less easy it is to identify what contagion will look like when it starts to spread.
When the banks, my theory has been in the last few years that, this negative interest rate and the states over in Europe saying, I can give you everybody a haircut. I just think that's what's coming. The banks know that a bailout isn't going to be acceptable to the people anymore.
Right.
So they've written a bail-in to all of their contracts, which we all click, I agree. They've changed it. So a bail-in basically is, I'm just going to take a percentage of everybody's savings, or at worst case scenario, they've moved the individual depositor into the last position to have their money refunded in case of a bankruptcy. So the average person loses with the banks. So the best thing to do is to digitize money and trap your money into a digital bank, because otherwise I'm going to take my money out of there.
And we wonder why sales of 1984 have gone through the roof.
Right. Does that sound crazy?
Absolutely.
Wait. Does that theory sound crazy? Like
no,
it could be?
It doesn't.
Right, okay.
I wish it did. I really do. But if you ask, unless you're going to tell me that there's going to be a complete and total revolution at the Federal Reserve, and last I checked, Trump said, I like her, I respect her.
Yeah.
So unless there's going to be a revolution at the Federal Reserve, then the academics' next line of defense is negative interest rates and digitization and forcing consumers to spend.
So, Danielle, how does the average American prepare for something like that? How do we...
I'd rather be early than wrong. I'd rather have my powder be dry. And
would you buy a house today?
It really would depend at what level. I bring the private equity kingpins back. They've been allowed to run rampant through our neighborhoods in America, buy up all these foreclosures, and they've crowded out your natural first-time home buyer. So home prices have been run right back up.
Mm-hmm. Even in a place like Texas, where it's nothing but growth for
well, we've
Texas.
grown. That's true.
Right.
But now our residential real estate prices have played a nice little game of catch-up.
Yes.
Would you take your money out of the bank while you still can?
I don't think we're there. We're
We're headed
but would I
on
take
that
my money out of the casino? Yes.
Yeah.
Meaning the stock market.
Yes. And the bond market. People do not understand how, as overvalued as stocks are, bonds are much more overvalued.
Where do you put it? Just in a bank?
Wow, you keep talking about safes. But no, I mean, there are very decent places that you can put your cash and get a little bit of return and try and hang steady with inflation.
Is there anything to say for, like I do banking with a local bank who doesn't sell my mortgage, they hold it. You know, I went to the local mom and pop.
A traditional bank.
Correct. And or what kind of loans do you make? And they're very, very rigid. Do you look at that or a credit union as a place that you can trust more than like Citi or any of these bigger groups?
Oh, I mean, I think the world as we know it will end if one of these gigantic banks goes away. Do you really see those lobbyists standing still for that?
No.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, no, I don't. So one more thought. It used to be that people like Warren Buffett were the heroes. Mm-hmm. And people like Warren Buffett, he's still living in the same house. He's still married to the same woman. He still, yes, he has a Boeing business jet, but he could easily be
drives
mistaken.
An old truck,
right.
All of those kinds of things, supposedly.
He could be mistaken for a middle-class guy easily if you didn't know it was Warren Buffett. The same thing with Walden, or was his name Walden from Walmart? Walton.
Sam Walton.
That's a different era. Now, everyone wants to live like the Kardashians.
Oh, Flash is the new black. Glenn, you gotta flaunt it.
Right.
Wear it.
Everybody is up there, and everybody thinks they deserve that lifestyle. So
that's what being entitled is all about.
Correct. So when we've had crashes before, you didn't have this stick it in your face kind of mentality. Which leads to a screw you on the rich side. I should be living that life. What happens to society? Are you concerned? Is anybody at the Fed concerned about the societal ramifications of this?
I wish they were. I wish they understood what's going to happen to these pensions.
How can they be so smart?
And 401ks. Well, because they have pensions for life with guaranteed returns. They're fine.
So they don't care. They just don't care.
They're able to be oblivious. They're set. They'll be fine.
You definitely, because I made this point earlier, you definitely do seem to be assigning bad intent.
When I first started at the Fed, I will tell you that I thought that there were noble intentions and that they really did want the best for everybody. My mind was changed after the crisis because they didn't change their approach. They knew people, millions upon millions upon millions of people had been harmed by their failed policies, and they did nothing to change their ways. So does that make me angry and make me think that you've gone from unintentional to intended? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Or is it a case of, because I know a few people who are at that level, and I just can't believe, every time I talk to them, I'm like, how can you be so blind? Is it mistakes were made, but not by me? That kind of mentality that you just are living in a world of cognitive dissonance, that you just can't admit that what you were doing has caused so much misery.
The reason I wrote the book and the reason it took so long to write the book was that I needed to be sure that it was in their words. And I just went back and quoted from the transcripts, from the FOMC meetings, from the Federal Reserve's meetings, and you just watched the hubris and blindness become willful blindness over time. And I'm sorry, but you have to, if you're going to be put in such a major leadership position, you have to know when to step back and say, I was wrong. Be a big man, be a big woman, grow up, take responsibility.
Doesn't end well because nobody's going to do that.
Well,
the name of the book is Fed Up, an insider's view, and I warn you, it is. There's no conspiratorial stuff to it. It's not secret star chambers or any of that nonsense. This is all out in the open, and I should say some of it is all out in the open, but it's not what the conspiracy theorists want to make it.
No, I disappointed them.
It's just sheer greed.
Yep. I really don't have aluminum foil coming out of my ears.
Right.
I don't.
Does that help the Fed to have those crazy conspiracy theories out there?
It certainly validates their sense of self because they know they're not some secretive order. Right. They know that. They're just really boring.
And it helps,
and wrong.
right? And it helps people dismiss the truth about the Fed.
Sure.
Because you can immediately say, "Oh, okay, Mr. Tinfoil Hat."
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the same theory behind why the Obama administration continually played up the birther nonsense.
Correct.
Because it helped them.
Right.
It helped them.
Sure.
It made their critics look like lunatics.
Right.
So.
No, there's nothing lunatic in the book.
No, there's not. Danielle, I thank you for your bravery because I know who you're taking on, and you're not taking on small potatoes. You're taking on the most powerful in the world. And thank you for your courage for speaking out. Thank you. Name of the book is Fed Up, an insider's take on why the Federal Reserve is bad for America. Pick it up if you want to know the truth and you want to know what's coming. And I highly recommend that you listen to what she just said about the possible coming economic storm, and prepare yourself. All right, I'm going to tell you the truth. We were scared to death of her.
Yeah,
and we didn't want to say anything.
You can't trust people with three names.
No,
you can't.
Right?
Danielle, DiMartino, Booth,
John Wilkes Booth,
Right.
Lee Harvey Oswald,
Mark David Chapman.
Serial killers, all
killers.
of them. So-
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Jeff Ree Dahmer.
No, that's
Right?
not.
Exactly.
Cher.
Yes. Share.
I think
share.
this is falling apart.
Madonna.
I think this is falling apart here at the end. But we're pretty sure she's either
something spooky
really
there.
credible and has or she's a serial
Or you
killer.
can, and you can't trust her.
We
can't
just
trust her.
don't know. But the only evidence that we have that she's a serial killer is three names. And
What more do you need? I mean,
I don't think a lot.
It's pretty hardcore proof right there.
I mean, really, shouldn't we just round up everybody who has three names
before they kill again.
before they
yes.
kill again?
Agreed.
I wonder what the reason, because it does happen a lot. I would assume that's people. Like, why does that occur? Because it's not necessarily that they
I
were
think to
being called
differentiate them
from
from
like an
everybody
average
else
person.
who has that name.
Yeah. And Dahmer was nobody has that name.
Yeah.
So
Jeffrey
what do we
Dahmer?
got? Yeah. But Chapman, that's pretty. Booth. Oh my
Oh
gosh.
my gosh.
They're both named Booth.
Oh my gosh, that's her last name.
Yep.
Oh, we didn't even go there. What's the relationship? She could kill again. She could be killing in a parking lot right now.
Yeah, at least it's not in here, though. I mean, if you're out in the parking lot, well, why are you in the parking lot?
I'm telling you, if we were up in a box seat right now, I think we'd all be dead.
Luckily,
all
we
be
never
dead.
have tickets that are that good.
Yeah, no kidding.
Luckily, we're always in the back of the